It is World Suicide Prevention Day, so we wanted to bring in Dr. C to talk about this today, some of the latest trends. Let's start with that. What are the latest trends in the rate of suicide, Dr. C?
Well, unfortunately, the rate of suicides are actually up. The CDC released data that was collected from 1999 through 2018, and unfortunately, the rates have increased by 35%. In the U.S., suicide still stands as the 10th leading cause of death. Here's what's disturbing. For those aged 10 through 34, it is the second leading cause of death. Men still have higher numbers of suicides than women. Globally, it's still a big issue as well. Every 40 seconds, somebody dies by suicide across this globe. So it's still a really big problem.
It really is hard to think about. Has the COVID pandemic affected these suicide rates? Is that what we're seeing, or is it other factors?
Yeah, so it's probably going to. It's a little early to see what the true data will show, but if you look at what's happened in prior similar situations, whether it be the 2003 SARS outbreak or it was the Spanish flu epidemic, we saw increased rates of suicide in that time. And just think about why that happens. It's a time of great uncertainty. There's distress, there's anxiety, there's fear of contagion. And for many, it can be just sort of the economic instability that it brings. There's isolation, and it all creates a situation where certainly if you have pre-existing psychiatric illnesses, it certainly can push you over the edge and create more of an issue.
You already said men are more likely to commit suicide than women. I've read many times that money issues are a big reason for men, taking that drastic step. So what are some of the signs or symptoms that we should all be on the lookout for that someone may be suicidal?
So many people who commit suicide will have given some red flags. They've talked about their intent. They've talked about how they may do something like this. And while this can be distressing to witness or to deal with, take it as a generous opportunity to intervene in this moment. So you may hear them talking about wanting to die. They may talk about how they're going to die. They may be preoccupied with giving their possessions away. Perhaps they talk about the sense of burden or this intense pain that they can't get over. There may be even mood disorders, or there may be anxiety or depression or isolation. And in some cases, they can feel really hopeless. And those are some of the signs that there could be something going on. And again, if they're talking about it, it's certainly on the table to really discuss with them.
This is something that I've always wondered myself. Is it okay or is it dangerous to ask a person, a depressed person, whether they are considering suicide? What are your thoughts on that?
It's certainly recommended that you do. It's something that we do in medicine. If we have a patient that comes in and we're having conversations and we hear this language, one of the questions that you'll hear us ask is, have you thought about wanting to hurt yourself? People want to be heard. They want to have someone listen to them, hear themselves think out loud, hear themselves go through the process of what they hear. Perhaps they're talking about having guns in the home or drugs in the home. They could hurt themselves. Again, that's an opportunity for you then to step in and say, how can we get these things out of the home? How can we get you the help that you need?
And by the way, we do have the number to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at the bottom of our screen throughout this entire interview. I did want to end it with this. Is it true that if a person attempts suicide and survives, perhaps as attention-seeking behavior, they are less likely to make a further attempt? Is that true?
Well, one suicide attempt is an indicator for further attempts. And so you can't ignore that and think it is attention seeking. It really is an opportunity there to intervene. And in many cases, the subsequent attempts become more dangerous, become more bothersome to their health. And so it becomes a moment for us to recognize that we can intervene. And it's not just the person who is either attempting suicide or commit suicide, it's the family or the friends that also becomes a risk that they could die by suicide as well. Is it the same environmental stress? Is it the same sort of psychological trauma that it can bring, or the stigma of suicide? So it's not just affecting that person, it's the circle around them. And one last thing I'd like to mention, you mentioned the suicide number. Well, the SEC recently gave some approval to a new prevention number that's going to take place by July 22. it's going to be 988. And that's going to take some time to roll out, but that's just one additional way that's easy. It rolls off the tongue, maybe like 911, but it's a way that people can get help much sooner than they otherwise could have before.
Well, hopefully it will do some help because, as you said, the rate has gone up. So we look forward to that being rolled out. Dr. C, thanks so much. Another great segment. Appreciate it.